Recycle, reduce, reuse, and close the loop. All right, guys, welcome to the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Will Santana, and
I'm Mike Russo, and you got some pretty good ideas for a moron.
Hey.
Nah, I don't mean that.
I know you don't. From the episode, what's going on?
It's good. It's good. Things are great, and yeah, we got another episode to discuss. Well.
Yeah, man. I'm feeling a lot better from last episode where I was really sick.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
You were definitely under the weather with that one last time.
Oh, yeah. I'm still coughing here and there, but I don't feel bad at all anymore, man. I feel pretty good.
You sound great.
All right, man. How's the family doing, Mike?
We're all good. My daughter just had a week off because as we're recording this, it was winter recess with her school. So, you know, she's trying to get back into the groove. School starts again tomorrow, and then we have our countdown to our Disney trip.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, stay related to this episode, Mike, just for a second. Do you like fish? Do you like seafood?
I've never been a really big fan of it. If I'm at a really good restaurant and it's well prepared, I will enjoy that. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a big seafood eater. I do like a well prepared piece of fish. Shrimp is okay. My daughter loves fish though. She is a big fish and shrimp fan. And my wife too. My wife loves seafood.
Okay.
How about you?
I like fish. I love catfish. Obviously, I'm in the South, so I like fried catfish. I like bass. I like shrimp. I like crab legs. Lobster, I do like it, but I do think it's like overpriced, overrated.
Yeah, lobster.
Yeah, that's just my opinion. There's certain things I won't eat. I'm not gonna eat octopus. I'm not gonna eat shark. My dad would eat that stuff. He doesn't. I don't know. He just eats anything from the sea. He just loves seafood.
I can't get past the look of calamari.
I don't like oysters, but I do eat a lot of fish though. I do enjoy fish.
I love a good fish and chips plate.
Oh, okay.
If it's prepared, maybe it's my English heritage coming out, but a really good fish and chips plate, I really enjoy that. And do you like sushi?
No, I don't, but my family does.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Okay.
As Darkwing says in this episode, he can take it or leave it. I leave it.
Yeah, I leave it too. Okay, well, Mike, this is a Saturday morning episode we're going to do today, something fishy. And a little debate came up. I'm going to play both sides on this debate, before we get into our review of this episode.
Right. And
I do understand one side of the debate for maybe a minute.
maybe a minute, if that.
Okay, and do you kind of want to get into it or explain it real quick?
Yeah, I think we touched on this briefly at the very beginning of this podcast, but because I want to elaborate a bit more, and I think we probably have a lot of new people listening who weren't there for the beginning of the show, I want to get into it a little bit about Darkwing seasons, where the Saturday morning episodes fall into that, because there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misinformation there about what the seasons are with Darkwing Duck. And if you'll indulge me, I want to go into a little bit of detail about that.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so Darkwing Duck was originally conceived as just a show on the Disney Afternoon. It's going to be a 65-episode show. And so the team got started making these episodes. And with those episodes, it include things like, That Sinking Feeling, Negaduck, Fungus Among Us. All those episodes were going to air on the Disney Afternoon. But then the ABC network got involved, and they were interested in putting Darkwing Duck on Saturday morning. So Tad Stones gave them a choice of episodes that were in production on the condition that ABC could just, they had to take what he gave them. They couldn't take notes. They couldn't change the episodes. Mm-hmm. So they just chose episodes that were already in production to air on Saturday morning. And that, fun fact, that made Darkwing Duck the very first, I believe the very first television show to air new episodes on weekday afternoons and on Saturday morning at the same time. So that was actually a milestone that Darkwing Duck started. But anyway, the 65 Disney afternoon episodes and the 13 that were chosen for ABC, they aired at the exact same time. They were all part of one production order. If you line them up by production numbers, which can be found, Wikipedia has the production numbers alongside the episode titles and everything. You can line them up. You can tell they were all made at the same time, and they also aired at the same time too. We're doing this podcast in air date order, and there's been a lot of confusion about when these episodes aired. Why do some people talk about them out of order? And if there is a season, how many seasons Darkwing Duck actually has. My own belief, my opinion, is that there really is only 2 seasons of Darkwing Duck. The first season, which is the 78 episodes, the 65 for the Disney afternoon, the 13 for the first ABC season, and season 2, which is the other 13 episodes for ABC season 2 in 1992. A lot of people, because of the way Disney has handled this over the years, the way they segregate the ABC seasons, they put them later. I've run across people who legitimately think the first ABC season were made later. Like asking questions like, why did they introduce Morgana later? That doesn't make sense. Is a Duckyphobia Moriarty's first episode? And my answer to those is no. If you line up the episodes in air date order, you're going to see that things make a lot more sense. Not a ton of sense, because we all know what happened with Justice Ducks.
Yeah.
But Morgana was still introduced first, so was Moriarty, because that's how those episodes aired. And I will go to my grave insisting there is no 3 seasons of Darkwing Duck. But I want your opinion, Will.
Now, for the people who believe there were 3 seasons and they are on the opposite side of your debate, Mike.
Yeah.
I understand why they feel there is 3 seasons at first.
I get it.
Yeah. I was not aware of the Saturday morning episodes, as Curtis mentioned as well. He was not aware of them on our last podcast. And if you don't know the air date orders, you're just kind of tricked in. I remember the Disney afternoons, and then I saw those Saturday morning ones later plugged in with the Toon Disney ones, Right. So those came a lot later. They came out of order for those people who did not see the Saturday morning. This is where I defend them, because the DVDs are releasing them in that order. Disney Plus has them in that order. So I understand their perspective of it. But this is where they lose me. So to be fair to them one more time, when you first comment with them or on post, I could understand them asking the question one time, but hey, it was in this order, in that order, blah blah blah, the DVDs, Disney Plus, and so forth. But every time I see you counter them, this is where I'm no longer with you guys on that end of the debate. It takes 10 seconds to Google what Mike is saying about the air date orders. 10 seconds, And once I did that the first time, because when I first saw you ever mention this, it was like 2-3 years ago in one of the Facebook groups. And I took the time to just Google it myself. I'm like, oh, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's right. Look at the air dates. Yeah.
I lived it, Will.
Yeah, and I'm like, the air dates are clearly right there. I was like, oh, okay, so all these years I missed those Saturday morning. So my brain as a childhood was misinformed because I didn't catch those,
Yeah, but by saying they're 2 separate seasons, you lose the big picture. Yeah. It's a lot more fascinating to look at Darkwing Duck as one big, basically cluster of a 78 episode one season. One production season. It's much more fascinating to look at it that way. And if you separate them the way Disney does, you're losing the big picture.
That's where I think their minds is playing tricks on them, because you're thinking of the traditional DVD set, season 1, season 2, season 3, and when you don't know Mike and you see him just saying, no, you're wrong because of this, the air date, you're like, dude, I'm not an idiot. I know what season 2 is. It has to come after season 1. So I get that perspective at first. Your brain has been taught that for so long. But if you just take the time, just relax, type in some Google, some Wikipedia, some wiki here and there, some binge, you'll find the answers.
Yeah, and Disney Plus hasn't been that helpful, but they've kind of been helpful because Disney Plus only separates Darkwing Duck into 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And I've seen people rage about that. Why isn't it 3 seasons? Because it's not. But they still put the first ABC season at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Which Disney Plus isn't even consistent with that. Because when you go to Timon and Pumbaa or Hercules, someone organizing those episodes stuck the CBS, those shows didn't air on ABC, stuck the Saturday morning CBS episodes exactly where they should be in air date order. Mm-hmm. They were smart about it. And I'm assuming they're going to do that when Aladdin finally ends up there. But for some reason with Darkwing Duck, they didn't do that. And I really wish they did. That would solve a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
So they're not even consistent, even Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope people who are listening that sheds some light on where I'm coming from with this.
Oh, it's gonna come up again. It seems to never go away. But we need to move on, Mike. Let's go ahead and go on to this episode, Something Fishy.
Yep.
Now we both kind of got mixed reviews on it, on 2 different things, which is good. We don't always have to agree.
Not terrible, but just doesn't thrill me.
I like it. I like the episode a lot. It kind of brings back my childhood 90s, the Captain Planet, the recycle, reduce, reuse.
Captain Planet.
Yeah, it kind of brings all that memory back. And then, I said before, I was living overseas when Darkwing came out. And so, I'm sorry, U.S. territory, Puerto Rico. But I was living overseas. That's the military term, people.
Don't sweat that, Will.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it.
Okay. So when I was living in Puerto Rico, we had access to the beach a lot. And I was not a litter, cleaning person, but I picked up some trash here and there. And, I see some stuff floating in the ocean. I would pick it up sometimes. Sometimes I wouldn't, So this episode kind of brings me back to my childhood of when Darkwing Duck actually came out. Because my dad took me to the beach. I would say at least 80% of the weekends we went to the beach at least once.
Yeah, I wasn't much of a beach person. I still am not. Give me the pool any day. But let's get the preliminaries out of the way here before we get into the episode proper. Okay. So the original air date was Saturday, October 12th, 1991. And since we're picking apart Wikipedia and air date stuff, the Wikipedia dates for the Saturday morning episodes are actually off by a week.
Okay.
So before anybody says my dates here are incorrect, they are absolutely not. This aired October 12th, 1991. It was the 25th in production order. I didn't say what the production order for Jurassic Jumble was, but that one was just 3 episodes later. So these were made around the similar time.
Okay.
The story editor is Carter Crocker. We've talked plenty of times about which episodes he's done.
Oh yeah.
We have a new one-time writer by the name of Steven Sistarsik. This is his only DW episode. Going through a little bit of what he's done, a bunch of early 80s sitcoms that you probably have heard of. He wrote for The Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, What's Happening Now, Alf, Small Wonder. I don't know if you've heard of Small Wonder.
Yeah, I remember Small Wonder.
Oh, my Lord, Small Wonder. He was a Disney staff writer for a short while. He worked on Tailspin. He won an Emmy for writing an episode of The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Ooh.
So he was an Emmy winner. He also wrote episodes of Goof Troop and Bonkers. And as far as animation goes, he might be most well known for being the co-creator of Nickelodeon's Wild Thornberrys show.
Okay. Are
you familiar with that?
No, that one I'm not. I do like What's Happening Now, and I did like The Jeffersons. So. Yeah,
Wild Thornberrys was an animated show from the same studio as Rugrats. I didn't care for it, but it's cool he was the co-creator of that. Unfortunately, he actually recently passed away in 2018.
Oh, man.
He was only 62.
Really quick, Mike. I'm going to change the subject just really quick.
Sure.
I liked Alf. I did not like the show, though. Does that kind of make sense? That I like the character but didn't care for the show?
Totally. Okay. That makes total sense. A lot of people like Alf but don't like the show.
Okay.
Remember Alf Will? He's back in pod form. Simpsons joke. But when I was a kid, I loved Small Wonder. But growing up, I see how creepy that show actually is. So anyway, also as far as animation goes, this was animated over at Sunwoo.
Okay.
And you told me you liked the animation in this episode.
I do, man. I liked it a lot. I know you differ, which is still good. You know, people are allowed to have their own opinions. You know, me, you never
Yeah,
really
of
get into
course.
arguments. You're wrong, Mike.
No,
I'm
no,
right. You're wrong.
no,
But
no. It's
I'll discuss it though. What I liked about it. There was a lot of things actually that I liked about the animation on this one.
and that's fine. There are a few bits I do appreciate. I'll mention those when we get there too.
Okay.
So yeah, this is our anti-pollution episode.
Hmm.
A lot of shows were doing that at the time.
Oh yeah.
Like, I know we mentioned Tiny Toons like crazy last time, but they did a lot of episodes like that. And I guess growing up with so many shows that were so blatant about it, I guess kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I just, at face value, my first instinct as a kid was to cringe when this one came on. But as an adult, I do appreciate the smart writing of this one.
Hmm.
And we'll get to it. I'll point things out as it happens. I won't get into too much detail right now. But starting the episode off doesn't take place, in the city or in the hideout. Where do we start? Somewhere new.
Yeah, we got Drake at the beach, and he's with Gauze and LP. LP got that fishing pole. He's ready to get out there and catch some fish.
You mentioned something interesting to me a couple of days ago. Um, even though this wasn't the episode that first did it, you said this is one of the first times we see Launchpad's feet.
Yeah, without those brown plastic pilot stuff he got on him.
You know what? They never showed his legs and feet on DuckTales.
No,
I
they
don't
didn't.
believe they ever did. Ever, ever, ever. Maybe his feet, but definitely not his legs. I think on Darkwing they had to come up with what his legs probably look like.
The only thing I could think of DuckTales where they might have shown his feet was on Treasures of the Lost Lamp, the
Nope.
movie.
He was wearing
No?
shoes. He was wearing
Okay.
shoes.
Oh, he was wearing shoes?
When he was riding his camel, he had shorts on, but he was wearing shoes.
Okay, so okay. I was thinking that might have been the only one because I remember he had on like a Hulu shirt at one point too, you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but he wasn't. Yeah, so I guess they had to totally figure out what his legs look like, and which they would have had to have done for the Darkwing decoy costume.
Hmm.
So anyway, minutia of Launchpad's legs aside, they're at the beach, and Goslin sees lots of trash.
Man, there's trash everywhere, Mike. It's ridiculous.
They're not subtle about it.
Hmm.
And Goslin is, for lack of a better word, she's really ticked off.
Oh yeah,
Like
she is.
Goslin rages throughout this episode.
Yeah, while she's raging though, LP's out there fishing and he catches a tire. That tells you how bad it is, man.
And all Drake wants to do is rest. He just wants to lay on his beach blanket and just chill. And he's totally like downplaying how bad the pollution is.
Now, Mike, I did like the animation during this scene. Besides Launchpad's feet showing, I I did, man. I liked how the sand was all detailed. Like you can see the seashells, you can see rocks, you can even see patches of grass here and there. I liked it.
Well, we have to give it up to the background artist for that.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
believe
definitely.
the background designer. I think that was Fred Water. I think Tim mentioned him during our round table. He's
Hmm.
I love his art. The backgrounds are really good in this show.
Oh yeah, man. But
And
then yeah, then we get Gosling and she spots a litter bug at 3 o'clock.
it's remind me though, it's a pig, right?
Yeah, it's a pig.
Of course, it's a pig. So Gosling goes to just bang him over the head with a garbage can.
Yeah, she's still ticked off, man.
Yeah, Gosling is just. Drake says she's overreacting, but considering how much garbage is there, Gosling really isn't overreacting.
Nah.
So she goes to hit him over the head. Drake stops her. The pig thinks he did it, pounds him into the ground,
Yeah.
and
Then we get some crabs come out the ocean.
yeah, they got one crab that has like a military hat, has a pipe, and
Yeah.
They start throwing trash.
Hmm.
And
They're throwing it at Drake and LP and them.
yeah, they're trying to clean up the beach. And so Drake decides enough is enough. He jumps into a beach umbrella, pops out, and he's Darkwing.
Yep.
And his entrance line, of course, is "I am the smoke that smokes smoked oysters." I I don't think he thought that one through too well because he says smoke a few too many times. Also, there's a giant octopus too.
I don't recall them saying his name, but when I looked it up, he has a name.
Well, there is the octopus in Justice Ducks, and his name was Hal. I'm not sure if this is the same one.
It's not the same one. I looked it up, and this one apparently his name was Billy, but
really,
but Neptunia never said his name though. She referred to him as Sweetie, I think, twice.
Yeah, but she calls everyone Sweetie. Honey. So the octopus balls up a big bunch of garbage, throws it into the smokestack of a factory, and blows it up. And Gosling's all for it. Yeah, get rid of the trash, and then a giant whale shows up.
Yeah, and he swallows Darkwing.
And then Pinocchio style, he makes the whale sneeze.
Yeah, with the gas gun though, right?
He said it to Smog. And all of a sudden, we see somebody. We don't get a good view of who it is, up on an outcropping of rock, blowing onto a conch shell, and then all the animals go back in the water and they leave.
Yep.
And Gosling supports, whatever's going on. Gosling's totally supportive. And this is where I guess I'll get into it a little bit. I think it's good that we have Gosling in this cast because since she's so young, she can overreact to this kind of degree, and it doesn't come off as preachy because she's a kid.
Yeah.
Like if Drake freaked out the way Gosling's doing, it would seem kind of odd. But having Gosling out for blood to that extent is not only funny, but it also supports the cause of the episode.
To agree with what you're saying, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, and I'm not going to give it away, of course, too much, but I think what you're saying with her overreacting as a kid, it works because later on there's an adult who co-signs her, but he does it in an adult, calmly fashion,
Yes, like I said, this episode is well written when it comes to its message. It's not beating you over the head with it as much as other shows would. As far as animation goes, I do love this one bit right before the scene transition where Darkwing is looking right at the camera and he snaps his fingers and the scene transitions.
Yeah.
Like he causes it to change. And I think that was a really, really neat little touch. So we get a really brief little bit in the tower in the hideout, and Darkwing's trying to make a connection between villains he's fought and Fish, and he's coming up totally empty. And again, I keep repeating myself, Gosling's out for blood. Whoever was doing that had a point. Yeah, he's cleaning up the place, and even Launchpad's kind of supporting that.
Yeah, Launchpad is. Launchpad plays a big factor, I think, especially toward the end.
He's a very quiet voice of reason in this one. But Darkwing's not wrong. There was property damage. Yeah. Nobody's wrong in this episode. A lot of them not everyone's actions are totally right, but nobody's on the wrong side, which makes this episode very rare.
Yeah.
So anyway, Darkwing and Launchpad get on a boat. Not a fancy boat, just a little boat.
It's like a tugboat or something, right?
Yeah, it's like obviously they probably just rented it because it doesn't look like something that would be in Darkwing's arsenal. And so finally we get our. You can't even say she's an antagonist because she's really not.
No.
But for the first time, the only time really, we get the first solo appearance of Neptunia.
Oh, she pops up on the boat, and really quick, Mike. I love how the scene when she first pops up on the back of the boat and her and Darkwing are conversating. I love the scene how the tugboat is rocking back and forth like with the waves of the sea. I love that animation, man. It looked great, man.
It's really subtle. But of course we mentioned Neptunia way back in Justice Ducks, voiced by Susan Silo. I didn't really feel much for her in that episode. She really didn't come across as a very strong character.
She does on this one.
I actually really like her here.
I like her a lot on this one.
Because I do love listening to the voice. I love how she's always calling people honey and sweetie, and she has a range in her emotions. But what I like is when she comes in and she immediately starts treating Darkwing like he's the villain.
Yeah, because they're both right. They both have their point of view. The problem is they're not trying to see the other person's point,
But he's not expecting her to do that, so she totally throws him off. He even has to stop and be like, wait a minute here. Because she comes in as the aggressor, like, oh, you made my octopus sick. He's always had an allergy problem. And Darkwing's put in a position where he's like, He's not usually in this position. And we didn't mention in Justice Ducks, she gets her own theme music.
Yeah, she did have her. They played her theme music in Justice Duck, but we
They
didn't have. There was too much going on in Justice Ducks, man.
Yeah, yeah, and it's somewhat similar to Steelbeaks in that it's very sassy.
Hmm.
I mean, I remember we talked to Philip Giffen not long ago, and he told us they would tell him about the character. He'd have to come up with its themes. Obviously, someone told him she was just a really sassy, streetwise character
Yeah.
because that's exactly what her theme sounds like. It's a very sassy theme,
Hmm.
and a lot of the episode has original music. This is definitely one of the ones where Phil had to write a lot of music for. I
Yeah.
can definitely tell. So she tells him to stay out of her way. And when he mouths off, she sends some starfish after him.
Yeah, they pin him up against the wall like a ninja star style.
So I love the timing here. Darkwing and Launchpad put on some scuba gear, jump underwater to find her, and she immediately finds them.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't have to. She doesn't look too long to find them. The octopus shows up. Darkwing grabs the gas gun, and unfortunately, it doesn't work underwater.
No, and
Little pink bubble comes out.
yeah, and the octopus captures them and then takes them to like a underground, like a jail, but where they can breathe without their mask. There's air in there.
I what I like about Neptunia is she's not shy about insulting Darkwing.
Oh, not one bit.
Like in really mean ways. He says something about he doesn't understand the meaning of the word defeat. And she says, illiterate, huh? That explains a lot. So she takes him down to her lair, yeah. And there's a quick Captain Nemo reference.
Hmm.
Definitely, he's the captain from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which was a Disney movie, which I have not seen in a long time.
I had to read the book, unfortunately.
Oh, you did? Have you seen the movie?
No, I have never seen the movie.
I was lucky enough to be able to ride that ride while Disney World still had it.
Hmm.
Anyway, so she pushes him into a jail cell, lines it with electric eels, and then she talks about her origin story.
Yeah. Well, before she got into that though, wasn't she really ticked off? She was like,
she's mad.
yeah, she had a big old tantrum over there with all the there's a lot of junk in that lair though, man.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of trash and stuff.
Yeah, and she keeps dumping trash on top of Darkwing and Launchpad. And so yeah, she decides to tell him her origin story. Right before she starts, Darkwing's like, "Oh great, I think this is the part where she tells us what turned into a life of villainy."
Yeah.
So really quickly, she was a little fish swimming around in the ocean one day, happy as anything, when she got hit with barrels of toxic waste that mutated her into like a humanoid fish. And really quick, a nice little visual touch. In the background, all the toxic waste barrels have formed a skull.
Yeah.
You saw that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a neat little touch. I didn't always notice.
Hmm.
So she tells him straight out how mad she is, and she's tired of pollution, and she wants to stop it before anything else happens to any fish, the same way it happened to her.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: Launchpad tries.
Yeah.
He tries to reason with her.
Yeah, he requests could they just pick up after themselves here on now, but she's not buying it.
But Darkwing's a jerk because right after she tells the story, Darkwing just doesn't care.
Hmm.
Like no sympathy at all, and that makes her even more upset.
Yeah.
And then when Launchpad's like, there are some good people, like maybe we can clean up after ourselves. She's just like, forget it, I'm not doing it.
Hmm.
And her plan is to flood St. Canard, then come on in and clean it up for them.
Yeah, at first I didn't understand how she was planning to flood it, but it took me like I don't know why it took me like 10 seconds to figure it out when the whale moved the island to block the flow.
Mm-hmm.
So what it was keeping all the water in St. Canard. At first I was like, wait a minute, I don't get it. She just plugged it up. Why wouldn't the water stay on the other side? But technically the flow was on the other side where St. Canard is.
Right.
Yeah, it just took me. I don't know why it took me 10 seconds to figure that out.
The logistics can get a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get out of this jail cell. I love this little bit of animation when the pipe falls off the pile of garbage and hits them on the head.
Yeah. Now, when that happened, though, LP starts to see her point, and he's trying to explain that to Darkwing.
He is.
He is.
Darkwing just doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, and there's a metal pipe, though, when Darkwing figures it out, how they're going to escape.
Yeah, he throws the pipe at the electric eels.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some scenes of him grabbing at the eels and getting a shock. And you mentioned to me you like the animation of that, right?
Yeah, I really did. It was so detailed, like all the bones and the shock, and it was really cool. And even the pipe that hit him in the head, when they first zoomed in on the pipe and they foreshadow it's gonna come rolling down, you can see the rust on the pipe too. I thought that was really detailed.
I'm gonna bet that when Launchpad picked up the dentures and threw them up in the air, you immediately thought of Quacker Jack.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, when the pipe hits him on the head, it's actually a really funny little bit of animation. So he uses the pipe, hits the eels with them, and the two of them go off after Neptunia, and they run into a couple of swordfish. Do you remember how they defeat the swordfish?
Yeah, he used the oxygen from their oxygen tank and blew him up like a big old balloon.
Just like the snake from Fungus Among Us.
Yep.
I guess you can't hurt the animals, so you have to get rid of them somehow.
Yeah, you can't kill them.
No. So there's a really quick bit where he has to put Goslin on top of the house.
Yeah, because St. Canard is flooded now.
But she's still, Goslin doesn't let up the entire episode. She's still supporting all of this.
Yeah. Even though St. Canard is all flooded, she's like, it's our fault, Well,
good for Goslin.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get DW and LP. They're in a submarine.
This definitely has to be something from his arsenal. Like, it looks like something he would have as part of his vehicle collection. Like that spaceship from When Aliens Collide that we never saw again.
Mm-hmm.
So he's recording the sound of Neptunia's conch shell. He plans to play it backwards to make the whale obey what he wants the whale to do.
Yeah.
But Launchpad is not very bright. He
accidentally plays the recording too soon.
Yeah, and gets Neptunia's attention.
Yep.
And there is a great line from Terry McGovern. DW says something, and Launchpad goes, "I can't hear you because all the noise." It's the specific wording. I can't hear you because all the noise.
Yeah. And then we get the octopus. He comes up and he squeezed them out of the sub.
Pops them right out of the mouth of the submarine. You know it's one of Darkwing's vehicles because the front of the submarine has a beak on it. So everyone ends up in a small outcropping of rock in the middle of the ocean. Darkwing, Launchpad, and Neptunia.
Yeah, we have a duel.
Yes, they have a fencing match with swordfish, which Darkwing wins.
Yep.
He disarms her and backs her into her corner, then uses the plunger on the gas gun to break the conch shell.
Yep.
And she still refuses to surrender.
But LP is pleading sympathy.
Yeah, because she's not wrong, but she's not going about it the right way. She's totally irrational and stubborn. But Darkwing isn't wrong either, but he's totally irrational and stubborn. At this point, you don't really sympathize with either of them at this point.
No, Launchpad he's playing the middle and he's getting them. He's being the mature adult here, and he's telling Neptunia like, hey, not all the people in St. Canard are bad people. Not all of them are littering and polluting.
You're flushing out the city, but you're flushing away the good right along with the bad.
Mm-hmm. And she finally comes around.
But she comes around first.
Yeah.
She softens him, and there's this great bit where she mentions that someone with a brain the size of an anchovy broke her conch shell, and the camera pans over to Darkwing, still looking triumphant, like he saved the day. And then he realizes, oh crap, I screwed up. But then even then, Darkwing's still being hot-headed about it. He's like, oh, I could do this, but your octopus sunk my submarine. And that's when he comes up with the idea of playing the music backwards on the sub. And that's when she says to him, you got some good ideas for a moron. She lets him have it. He needs to be knocked down a peg a little bit in this episode.
Yeah, so she swims down to the sub. She plays the recording backwards, and the whale unplugs the island from St. Canard.
And the water rushes out of the city, and the city's good as new.
Yep. And then DW finally concedes and shows his gratitude. He didn't really show it greatly.
He still calls her a villain.
Yeah, he still does.
And he does shake her hand. And he got a new conch shell for her, but isn't too thrilled about giving it to her. Goslin has to make him do it.
Mm-hmm.
And just in case people aren't going to, behave and not litter, Launchpad says, I'll see to it myself, which is a really tall task. It's not really something Launchpad could do, but points to him for trying.
Yeah. And then she kisses DW and she leaves.
Yeah, and she says, honey, I hope there isn't a next time.
Hmm.
You
But
know.
then a litter bug pops back up, Mike, one last time.
Yeah, and because Gosling's she's still freaking out. She's like, she should have flooded the entire city to the tallest building. And Darkwing's like, you have to understand, Gosling. You have to be rational about this. And then he sees a litter bug. And then he goes, what do you think you're doing, you big slob? And hits him with a garbage can. And his last line is litterbugs.
Hmm. All right, so Mike, that's something fishy right there, man.
I gotta say, we did blow through it. It's a very simple episode with a simple setup, a simple storyline. There's not a lot going on, but it is entertaining.
Yeah. Okay,
And it handles its anti-pollution message very classy by being smart enough, like I said, to have everybody be right, but also be wrong. There isn't a villain who's like, ha ha ha, I love pollution, as other shows would do. This is a lot smarter about it.
Okay, so how many gas gun canisters would you give this episode, Mike?
I'm going to give it 2.5, which honestly is right in the middle. That is average. Okay. It's not one that you're going to be like, yeah, let's watch something fishy again, guys. Come on. No one's going to say that. And Neptunia isn't anyone's favorite character either. But the fact that it's well written for what it's trying to do, it makes it definitely a good 2.5 episode for me.
Okay. All right. Well, Mike, I'm going to differ from you on this one. I'm going to give it 3.5.
Wow.
I really like this episode. It's fun. I like Neptunia. I wish I would have saw this episode before Justice Ducks when I was a kid. Well, to be fair to her,
I wish I did too.
Yeah, but also to be fair to her on Justice Duck, the villains just overpowered the heroes, man. That's the villains episodes, and it's a Naked Duck upbringing episode.
Like I said when we were talking about those, when she shows up in part 1, as a kid, my initial reaction was like, who is this? Mm-hmm. Like, who is this, and why should I care?
Yeah. Well, I like her character. She's feisty.
I do too.
She's very feisty. She comes off way better on this episode than the Justice Ducks. You see her point of view, even though like they try to present her as the villain, but you never really do see her as the villain. You just see her as a stubborn opposite of Darkwing with her perspective. I love the animation on this one, from showing Launchpad's feed to the details at the beach. I love the transitions from the dark water and then they get to the shallow water. I love the details of Darkwing when he gets shocked by the electric eels. I love the detail when the whale is jumping in and out of the ocean and you can see the water coming off of him. It's a great episode to me. I really like it. Now, is it top 10 for me? No, I'm not going to go that far. I don't want to go like top 30. I don't know, man. That's too much. I ain't about to count that high.
No. Yeah, I never get that high, but it's probably,
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that high for me either.
Yeah, it's a good, fun one. I like it. I enjoy it. I could watch it again. Now, can I repeat over and over like, hey, you never seen Darkwing? This is the episode you got to see. No, I'm not going there. But I like the episode. I love the animation. I love Gosling on this one because she is definitely on one side of the fence here, and she's agreeing and saying like, hey, we need to save our Earth.
She's not essential to the episode, but if she wasn't in it, I think it'd be a weaker episode.
And this is an episode where I really feel Launchpad is the hero. Even though it's like really quick, it's short, and it's compassionate, he's the hero. He's the one who talked to Neptunia because Darkwing couldn't, because they were butting heads the whole time,
Yeah, Darkwing doesn't come off looking good at all in this episode.
Yeah, so Launchpad is the hero to me, and that's just my opinion on that.
No, it's fine. I think that totally makes sense.
And the Litterbug, he's a short little gag in there, and he works.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention, this is funny. Now, not to go off tangent too far, as we record this, I just got done totally binging the Hercules TV show. Mm-hmm. And I only mention this because it's funny at the end of this episode to only see 5 voice actors in the cast. Mm-hmm. It was basically Jim, Terry, Christine, Susan Silo, and Frank Welker. Obviously, he did any of the animal sounds. I watch a show like Hercules, and they need like 2 separate screens for all the guest voices on that show. And it's funny how Darkwing Duck does so much with so little.
Okay.
Isn't it? I mean, to me that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
most definitely, man.
it's Darkwing is such a simple show that even a simple episode like this that another series would like totally ruin by making it too moralistic and preachy.
Hmm.
It does it right as far as I'm concerned. If somebody asked me, give me an episode of a 90s show that handles a pollution theme and does it well, I would go to this one.
Okay. All right. So, Mike, are we gonna rate a villain here?
Not a villain, but we could always rate Neptunia. We rated Morgana.
Okay. So, well, how many gas gun canisters are you gonna give Neptunia?
I'm going to give her the same amount of gas canisters I'm giving to the episode. I'm going to give her 2.5.
Okay.
Because where she works, she works. I think
Hmm.
Susan Silo does a great job with that voice.
Oh, she does.
She's so sassy, and she's one of those characters who can just call Darkwing Duck a moron and
Hmm.
get away with it. And the design is neat. I think she looks pretty cool, but I also don't see how they could have kept using her.
Okay.
Like I totally understand why she didn't come back because the anti-pollution shtick, you can't keep doing that,
Hmm.
you know. But she's fine for a one-time character, and she gets props for coming back into Justice Ducks episodes too.
Yeah. I'm gonna give her just a slightly higher grade than you are. I'm gonna give her a 3.
Well, you really like this episode.
And the only reason why I'm gonna give her slightly because I love the scene where she gives the tantrum and she's just screaming out of the top of her lungs and like she's just showing Darkwing how ticked off she is with all the pollution and how she became the bee and all that. Like I love that scene. That was just great voice acting and the animation with her. You could see how furious she was. You know?
Yeah, I do love the line where she's like, "Mad, honey, I'm not mad. I'm furious."
Yeah. So like that's why I'm gonna bump her up a little bit. I didn't want to go too high because I felt like the Justice Duck episode brings her back down, you know?
It again, it definitely hurts that this one did not air before. It
Yeah, that
definitely hurts that if this one and Jurassic Jumble had aired first and Dry Hard did, I still almost 30 years later, Will, I still have that stigma of seeing that episode for the first time and saying, "Who are these characters?" It's something I've never been able to shake, no matter how old I've gotten. You
Mhm.
know, old as dirt, like you said last week. Um, I can't shake it. I see
Mm,
Neptunia show up in Justice Ducks, and a little bit of me is still like, man, I wish I had seen her first. You
okay.
know, and the fact that this is a Saturday morning episode and people segregate those episodes to come
Mhm.
later, like we talked about that, means most people are familiar with her only through Justice Ducks.
Yeah.
And I
Mm,
think she deserves more than that. I would not say that about Stegmutt. I think she does.
okay.
But they never used her again, so we'll never know.
All right. So Mike, what episode we got next, man?
So believe it or not, we have the first of 3 consecutive Steelbeak episodes.
Whoa.
Did you
Okay.
know that?
I knew about one of them because I know which one's next, but I didn't know it was gonna be 3 in a row.
3 consecutive. The bad news is Ammonia Pine's coming back for the next
Uh,
one. Yeah, the next one might be
I should have figured that out with the title.
well, the next one's called Cleanliness is Next to Badliness. Yeah, it's an episode, I'll give you that. But we'll talk about that when we get there. It'll be nice to see Steelbeak again. Been a little while.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be our next one.
Hmm.
And we did not do our shout outs and our usual spiel at the beginning, so we should do that now.
Oh, okay. So Mike, plug us. Where can they listen to us? Because it seems like they're listening to us on
Everywhere.
everything. Yeah, I did not see one consistency when I put up a post asking where they listen to us on, man.
Apple seems to be the leader in
Hmm.
terms of where people find us. So Apple seems to be the number one, but Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, of course, Pandora, iHeartRadio. You can also watch us on YouTube if you feel inclined, and Amazon Echo as well. If whatever you're listening to it on gives you the chance to like, subscribe, or review, which would be awesome,
Hmm.
please do that. And I think I got everything.
I think so too, man. I can't keep up with it.
There are other ones too. But I just cannot name them all. I'm glad we're that widespread. There are some podcasts I listen to that like aren't on Spotify, and it's just
Hmm.
like, come on, it's Spotify. But we make sure we're on everything as much as we can.
Yeah.
And you got some shout outs too?
Yeah, I got some shout outs, man. I'm gonna give a shout out to Stephen Foster, Jack Russell, Kevin Wayne Smith. There was one more. Oh, Jeremiah Coffin. I don't know if I. My God.
Is this Instagram or Facebook?
This is Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is Facebook. I did Instagram last time. You know what? I'm gonna slide in. I got a few here more. I'm gonna be generous today. Amber Jones, Donald Grant, Michael Bogdan. That's enough. I gotta say something for other.
Hats off to all you guys for supporting us.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. We've been growing as of lately, man. We're almost at 900.
Yeah, we didn't quite make the 1,000 we were hoping for, but we're almost at 900.
Yeah, we're almost at 900, and which is not bad because I've seen other Facebook groups who cover all the Disney afternoon shows, and we're like right behind them, you know, as far as numbers, and we're just one show.
One show based on one series, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm really proud of us, man. I'm excited, and we couldn't do that without you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, if we have no listeners, we have no show. So there you go. So thanks everybody for listening. You know, go have some swordfish or have some octopus, whatever you feel inclined to eat. Go enjoy your seafood. And you know, that's it. So guys, have a great night. Stay dangerous.
All right, guys, stay dangerous, and we'll see you next week with Mr. Raw Paulson. Yeah.
Yep.
Not an interview. Not an interview.
No. Take care.
Right. Take care, y'all.